What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Pastor Ramon, aka Pastor Ray, and this is the Well Encounter Live. You are with us. This is April 21st, 2022, and we are extremely excited to be bringing you the Well this evening. So go ahead and take a moment, and if you're watching this, what I'd love for you to do is just to let us know that you're in the building by commenting and letting us know that you're here. Also, take a moment and if you're with us, go ahead and share this. Share this so that other people can see this. We are talking about a very deep topic tonight, and it's going to be a great conversation. Just a little bit about us. We're talking about grief. This whole month, we are doing our series on Resurrection Chronicles. And we are rising above. So last week we were rising above addiction with my barber, former addict, substance addict, now recovery addict, who had a great encounter with us. And tonight we're talking about rising above grief. So before we even go on, this is the deal. If you have ever dealt with grief, if you know someone who's dealing with grief right now, I want you to share this post and I want you to tag them on the post. Because this is going to be a great conversation. I'm telling you, I can feel it in my spirit. So please go ahead, share this on your page, share this in your network. If you're on YouTube, then share this through text message and say, hey, I just thought this might be something you might be interested in. I just thought this might be something that touches you tonight. So go ahead, take a moment and share and let people know what we're talking about. While you're doing that, if you're new to the well, we welcome you. And then to all our Wellians, we welcome you back. You know what time it is. This is the time to encounter the well, become the well, and then emerge and share the well. What does that mean, Pastor Ray? Well, I'm glad you asked. If you encountered Jesus, right, and you were talking to Jesus, you love Jesus, you found a relationship, then you become more like Jesus. And then as you progress through your life, you emerge and you share Jesus with everyone else. Same thing as if you encounter love. We want you to become love, emerge, and share love. And if you encounter, if you encounter God, you want to become more like God, emerge and share like God. Put whatever good terminology right there, and you see you can come up with a lot of great stuff. All right. Now listen. Everything we do here at the Well should lead you down the path of the 5 P's. And what are those P's? Well, I'm glad you asked. Those P's are passion, purpose, promise, peace, and power. Everything that we do should lead you down a path to one of those P's because we believe that God has all of that in store for you. All right? So, again, tonight we are having a conversation about grief, rising above grief. And some of our own panelists, some of our own squad have endured things where they have had to grieve, and they are still grieving. And you'll hear about that tonight. But we also have 2 special guest panelists that are on with us, good friends of mine, good friends to the well, and they're going to talk a lot about a path that we don't wish on anyone else, but a path that has led them to some amazing, beautiful, life-giving things. So without further ado, listen again, like this, comment, let us know that you're here on both YouTube and Facebook. You'll see us commenting throughout the night as well. And then share this to your group of friends. Share this in your network. Share this on your Facebook page. Share this to as many people as you can and tag them and say, hey, you should be a part of this this evening. Without further ado, Jackie, our super producer Jackie over at the Amplify Network, would you bring in our amazing panelists that are with us tonight? Awesome. Listen, oh my God, you look so great tonight. I'm so happy, so honored, so amazed to be with you all. I'm going to start. I want everybody to just kind of introduce who you are. Just say a little bit about yourself. We'll have a lot of conversation. You'll have much more time to talk about it. But just maybe a brief, what's your name? Where are you from? And what do you do? What do you do? So we'll do that in just a second. I just want to ask our squad to go ahead and say hello to the people. So I'll start to my immediate, let's see, that's left on the screen. Nikki, why don't you go ahead and share some love with the people?
Hey guys! I am back. Y'all know me. I am Miss Nikki. Normally, I be in the comments, even though you still kind of see me down there. I engage with our well community, and I am loving tonight's conversation. Really looking forward to it and ready to take in some knowledge and some really great lists tonight. And yeah, let's have a great night.
Awesome, Brother Harrison.
Good evening, family. Listen, it is exciting to see y'all. It has been a long, long week, but just so grateful to be having this conversation, a timely conversation nonetheless. So
Mm.
let's talk. Let's talk. It's good to see y'all.
And then I'm gonna skip real quick down to our middle, to Debbie down there in the middle.
Hi everyone, I'm Debbie. I've been at the well for, it's been a long time. Took a break with COVID, of course, but I guess one of the OGs, sort of, in a sense. But glad to be with you all again this evening.
All right, and then we have two special, beautiful, amazing guests with us that are good friends to the well. And I will start with my lady in the blue. Why don't you just share your name and where you're from and what you do?
Okay, my name is Tyreese McAliister. I am originally from New Jersey, but living in the DMV for the last 31 years. I am a therapist, I'm an author, I am a coach, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, and I train.
Hey, all right.
Yeah.
I love it.
In other words, I'm a superhero.
I
Yeah,
know that's
that's
right. I
there
love
we
it.
go.
I love it. I love it. And then right below me, in the lady in the yellow, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
It looks like she might be stuck.
Oh, she might be frozen. Okay,
Uh-oh.
okay. Well, we'll well, if you don't know her, she'll come back on at some point, I'm sure. Her name is Marcy Patrick, and she is a good friend of the well. She's a good friend of mine as well. We've been friends for years. She also works with, or is one of the board members, I believe, on Tyrese's organization, and we'll talk a good bit about that in just a few. So let's go on. Listen, y'all, we're talking about grief, and I know that is a sad subject to so many, but I want to make sure that people know that not only do you experience grief, but there are ways to. Well, we want to talk about, can you get through grief? We want to talk about, is there another side of grief? Um, and so, just to start us off, Tyreese, you have a story that I specifically invited you on for. There's Marcy. There's Marcy. Hey, Marcy.
Yes, I'm having internet problems. Hi everyone. So I'm Marcy Patrick Trueheart, and I am a mental health advocate. I am on the board of the Ayanna J. McAllister Foundation. Um, I've been doing community work for almost 30 years, probably a little longer than that. And Pastor Ray and I go way back, way back.
Way back. um, yeah. And so, you know what? Tonight, let's start off a little differently. I just love to pray before we start off. So, can we just do that? A quick moment of prayer. Um, Gracious God, we just thank you again for today. We thank you for your love. We thank you for your protection. We thank you for just being God. Tonight, we're going to deal with a heavy topic. And God, I hope that you are seen all throughout this conversation, that you show up and that you show out and that you show love and that you embrace us and that help us to embrace others and talk others through whatever they might be going through, God. We just love you. We give you reverence and we just want you to shine your light on us tonight. Shine your light on you tonight through us so that you may be glorified in everything that we're doing. We be careful to give you the praise and the glory and the honor because you deserve it. In the matchless name of Jesus, we say amen.
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 Awesome. So yeah, again, so Tyreese, I reached out to you because you have such a rich story. I do want to share. I want everyone to kind of share what their stories might be. But Tyreese, again, you have one that is just a moving, touching story, and I just love it. If you maybe could share, how have you experienced grief in the last couple of years? And I think that'll lead up into what your story is.
Okay. 2017, my 18-year-old daughter and my 19-year-old daughters were home on spring break from college. and they were hanging out with some friends, and there was a shooting, and my 18-year-old daughter was shot by one bullet, and she died several hours after that. And of course, that was devastating because no parent should have to bury a child. This was a very good girl, very much liked. Never had a fight. My baby never ever had a fight, which to me was amazing because I grew up in the hood and had plenty of fights. But she was just a beautiful spirit. And so she was taken. And so, as a mother, you never expect to lose a kid, but it has got to be one of the hardest things. It's definitely the hardest thing I've ever endured. And I can't imagine any pain that could be worse than that, of losing a child before their time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm sure, I hear so much, Tyreese, there is, my mom, I lost my brother a couple years back,
Sorry.
older than what your daughter was, but I know that just watching my mom and then watching other people who I've known who've lost their children, I know that that is just a grief that I don't think any of us who have never dealt with would ever understand. To
Right.
watch the same person you've given birth to lose that person, and so
Hmm.
our condolences even to this day, for
Thank
the
you.
grief that you've experienced. Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yes,
And then,
yes.
please go ahead. Were you going to say something else?
No, that wasn't me.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Um, and then even on tonight, and I know it's fresh, but I do want to acknowledge, and I don't know how comfortable he might feel talking about it, but I know that just the other night, Nikki and I were in conversation with Nikki, I, and Harrison were having a meeting, and Harrison got a call 2 nights ago that his uncle passed, very unexpectedly. And so even on tonight, Harrison is with us, but he is grieving, and I want to acknowledge that. I did not expect him to be on tonight, but he did call last minute and say, "Hey, I want to come on." And so just to acknowledge that, put that out there so everyone knows kind of what's happening. Harrison, I don't know if you want to share anything, but just want to acknowledge you, brother.
No, I appreciate you. I was not planning on coming on here. I'm gonna be honest, and I was actually asleep. I took off work for the rest of this week because considerably last year lost 11 or 12 people, and not all to COVID, to multiple different different causes of death. But in particular, I lost my mom lost her first sibling. She was born into a family of 10. And my grandmother's still alive, pushing 89 this year, still living, still healthy, still strong, just being what a Black woman is, just amazing. And beyond that, she lost her first sibling last year, her baby brother, number 9 out of 10, I believe. And a year later, same 2 week span, lost, I believe, her oldest brother. So just with a close knit family, man, I think the thing that I'm learning about grief is that life doesn't stop, but it still hurts. That you have to take time to acknowledge, what's going on around you, but also understand that God got you covered. So I know a lot of processing out loud right now, but just again taking space to acknowledge what's going on. So I'm a little bit quieter today. Just understand I'm taking space to learn and to sit in what's happening. So God woke me up and said, "You got some responsibilities to tend to." So we're here.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much for coming on, Harrison. We appreciate it. And listen, I want to talk a little bit about this. I want to give a moment to just if anybody else, I know that all of us have gone through grief at some point. If you just want to talk about maybe an experience that you've had with grief, open up about it. Again, I preach about it sometimes. When I lost my brother about 4 years ago now, 5 years ago. We had just launched the Table Church morning service on Easter morning. Um, his birthday was like the 27th of March. A week later, which would have been April that year, I'm sorry, which would have been Easter that year, we launched the service, and we were giving God praise. We had like 150 people on our first Sunday. phenomenal experience. Um, and then a week later, April 8th, my brother passed suddenly. And so, I remember going through a moment of like, oh my God, like God, here we are planting a church, doing things in your name, and wow, like my brother is just all of a sudden gone. And so I think that
Mhm.
probably has been one of my closest grieving experiences. Lost my grandfather last year in December, and so of course that as well. But I think it hurt a lot more of my brother just because he was so much younger. He was my younger brother, so yeah, I do share that. Nikki, Marcy, Debbie, I don't know if you've experienced grief in a climatic way or not.
Um, well, for me, I guess the most recent one that hit me the most heavily. I mean, because I've had older family members pass periodically, but the one that hit me uh, the most recently, I guess it was. I think it's been a couple years now. Was my great aunt, my grandmother's sister. She basically was like another grandmother. You know, she taught me how to make my first cake. And that was her famous cake that the whole family always knew. You always knew anytime you went to Aunt Gliz's house, she had a lemon pound cake waiting, and that was the cake she taught me, how to bake. And when she passed, from leukemia, it was kind of, it didn't really hit me until like it came time for the funeral. Like I knew it was coming. My mom was telling me everything that was going on. She even described the whole process because she made it down there to South Carolina right, like just in time, right before she died, and uh, basically saw her transition and path and everything. And I felt it was, I think it was right after her birthday, right after her 80, 87th birthday, something like that. Anyways, again, it just didn't hit me till later. And then I felt a sense, I did feel a sense of guilt because I tried calling her, but I didn't get a chance to talk to her before she passed. Because at the time that I called her, she wasn't really taking any calls like that, except for certain people. And then I didn't get a chance to talk to her again at all. And my mom had told me beforehand, like when we found out she was, sick or whatever, she was like, you should call her. And I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah, I'm going to call her. And then I missed it. So, um, and once it came time to the funeral, that's when it hit me for real. And I'm not really good with death. I'm not even gonna shade that to y'all. I don't like funerals or anything like that. So I can't imagine, the pain of losing a child, especially with me having a 7-year old daughter who is my whole world. Um, I can't begin to think of that.
Yeah. I also want to give like a moment for people. I know people don't always friend who lost in the middle of her going through cancer. She lost both of her pets. She had a cat, she had a dog, and a lot of times people
Mm-mm.
don't think that there's grief with things like your animals or your pets or whatever. But I know that that meant something to her too, and so I just want to acknowledge that people are lost, and there we grieve people, but there are oftentimes we grieve. You can grieve through so many different things, your pets, your children, your parents. It could be things in your life that you've lost that had a special place in your heart, valuables that you just held on to, or their family heirlooms and stuff like that. So grief comes, I think, in so many different ways. And I know, Tyreese, you probably could sort of educate us with that, but I'm going to go back to you, Tyreese. I know you mentioned, and just again, the story of your daughter here at a party, and of course, it was a shock to you. Um, I'm sure. I think one of the questions that people probably will wonder is, if we fast forward to today, do you ever really get over grief? Like, do you feel like there's a moment when you go, I will stop grieving. Like, I'm no longer grieving for my daughter.
I don't think so. I think grief looks differently. And it looks differently. It looks different for different people, right? So where I am, even the weeks after she died, is a little different than what other people might experience. So that's why I'm always careful not to say, I know exactly how you feel, right? Like we really should not say that to people because we don't know. And a lot of people thought that I was doing pretty well, and from the outside, it looked like I was doing well. People like, oh, you got that degree in counseling, that's why you're doing so well. And I wouldn't say that. I mean, I don't think it's nothing I learned to school to prepare me to lose my daughter, right? Or
Mhm.
to grieve. I think it was my personal relationship with God. And you know how we hear that story about the footprints in the sand and when God carried you. And literally, I believe that's what happened for me. Like literally, I could feel God's presence in a very different way the weeks after she died. And God was ministering to me and gave me some real specific assignments. I don't know if everybody has that, right? And so will I ever really stop grieving death? I don't think so, but I do think there are things and people that we can grieve. So I want to go back to another thing that you said when you said we grieve stuff, right? We grieve relationships, like the person that's walked out of your life or you walked out of their life, right? Like you can grieve that relationship, you miss it. Sometimes you want it back or you just miss the presence of it. You grieve a
Mhm.
job. Sometimes we grieve good health, right? Because we are no longer in good health. Or we grieve situations, like we're comfortable with like family, like our family size. Like when a person has an empty nest and their kids have gone to do their own thing, there's a grief process there. So people can get through grief. There is another side of grief, but like that longing and missing a person, it just depends on the relationship. It depends on how you felt, what else you have going on, and your resilience in it. So for some people, it's really interesting too. Like a couple of times after Ayana was killed, people have, like, I remember one day my mother, I was not in a good space, and I was talking to my mother, and I talk to my mother every day. And my
Mm-hmm.
mother said, I was like, yeah, I'm just not good today. And she was like, well, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I lost my kid. Right. And this is my mother who also lost her granddaughter. But because I appear to be doing so well, people forget. And I'm not even talking strangers or people that don't know me. Like, even my mom is like, oh, what's wrong with you? I'm like, yeah, some days it's not a good day. Even 5 years later, it's just not a good day.
Mhm.
But I thank God because my good days outweigh my bad days. I'm really motivated by Ayana's loss to make a difference in the world. Ayana wanted to be a police officer. And so, a lot of my work is around what I do for police officers and what I do for the community, because gun violence is such a enigma in our community. And it's, to me, it's the American shame that we don't talk about gun violence that happens to Black and brown people. And we don't do enough, for Black and brown people, which is why we started the organization.
Yeah. And since we went there, I don't want to stop you. Can you talk a little bit about the organization?
Absolutely. So Marcy, she's on our board. And immediately after my husband and I lost our daughter, well, what happened was, you know how us African Americans do. We give people a card with some money in it, right? And so, fortunate for us, before Ayana was even buried, people had given us over $20,000. We had
Wow.
$20,000, and it came from a number of people, some organizations, but we had insurance for her, so we didn't need the money to bury her at all. So we wanted to do something to leave a legacy for her, and we were going to initially just give scholarships, which was something that me and my husband and I've always been about, trying to get Black kids educated beyond high school. And because my daughter was also in college, we wanted to just do scholarships. And then when we start looking at the numbers about gun violence, we figured maybe we should do a little bit more, still give scholarships, but do a little bit more work. And so out of that desire to do more in our community for Black and brown people, we decided to do the foundation, Ayanna J. McAliister Legacy Foundation. So we do a lot of training and advocacy work, and we have some activities coming up. I'd like to share if that's okay. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So June.
can we share the activities just in a second? I want to get
Yeah.
to a little bit and want to make sure we give that right before we get off, so people can definitely tune in for it, because
Okay.
I want
Perfect.
people. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, please. Thank you for sharing that, Debbie. I know you haven't had a chance to chat, and I just wanted to get you in here a little bit. What is you're hearing this? What are you thinking about? Is there something you're thinking about? What are you reflecting on in this conversation?
Yeah, so actually, there are two parts that I was going to reflect on. One that's been through grieving and one that's watching other people grieve. So more recently, because it had been in the third week in March. So one of my uncle, my mom's brother, is going through a really tough time right now. His wife is going through a serious illness, and then he learned that his daughter had passed away, and she was in her 30s. So that was really, really hard. She was my cousin, so she and my first cousin, so I was not as close to her, but I did know her. I knew her here and there, kind of growing up. Last time I'd seen her was in 2019 over Christmas. She had a little bit of like a difficult past, I guess. She's kind of in conflict with her family, kind of unfortunately. But I, like you kind of hold up hope that there is always some redemption, of course, when someone's going through a tough time. So this kind of ended in a really sad way. Didn't feel like she had a chance to really like turn her life around completely from what she was kind of involved in. So I think that was kind of hard, and I think her family. It just seems like a very like people are they're sad, but it's like mixed with anger. It was just some of the things that had taken place, kind of in the past. So kind of just watching my uncle kind of being in a state of like quieter than usual. Not nearly as engaged. I can tell, he's living with my other aunt, his other sister. There's definitely like a lack of interest in just the usual that he was really into. So taking care of the family home, like definitely not interested in doing that. Like you can just tell there's a certain like a shift that has taken place. I don't think this is something that's gonna. I mean, music group doesn't really go away. Especially not right away, or maybe not, completely. It's something that definitely sticks with you. So definitely, I can't, I'm not say I understand, but I'm seeing and feeling like someone else that I know who's lost a child is gonna have a service for them. And then for me more personally, and it's been a long time. It's been a long time. But back when I was, I'm gonna say a long time, but back when I was in high school. Senior year of my high school year, I lost my grandfather, who was one of the closest people I had lost at that period of time. I was about 16 or 17 years old. It was really, really hard. I remember grieving that I think, an active grieving for a good year. And that's for someone that lived a long life. They were in their late 70s. I think they were 79 years old. So, like, they had my kids, they had grandkids. Then we might have gotten to the point of great grandkids, maybe. I'm not sure at that time. And lived a long life, but it was still really hard because we saw him for pretty much if not every day, pretty much every week for sure. He was really, really active in our lives. So it was really, really hard. I just remember like it was just being in a dark cloud for a long time. I remember, like, when I was in high school, I remember it sounds really random, but I wear black almost every day, like some variation of black in some way. Most of the time, I didn't feel like engaging so much. And I think the hard part, and Harrison was kind of talking about this, is like life still does go on, and you kind of have to keep functioning. So I was, applying to colleges and like trying to figure out what's going to go to school the next year. And so it was like all these different things and trying to handle that grief along with like trying to think of a future that was beyond that moment. Um, so that was hard too. And I think, grief doesn't end, grief kind of, it doesn't end because life is happening and things are moving. It's like you're carrying it along with you. And sometimes, as time goes by, people don't really notice it, but it's still there, it's still with you. And I think something that's really important is to keep checking on people, after 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, 14 months, just check in with that person and see how they're doing. It might seem like they're, in a good space, but it's a good chance they're still thinking about what's been happening. They still miss that person. It's good to keep checking in on them. I know definitely I want to say it's for my Black family, other people's families probably too. Like right after the funeral, family visits you all the time. They bring meals for you. They visit with you, but then like it starts to taper off. But it's one of those things that you
Yeah.
have to keep checking in. You have to keep checking in with people because you don't know really how they're doing. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely. I think, and Marcy, you've experienced grief. Just, I mean, not too long ago too. In your own family and in a couple of different ways. But you want to share that with us and just, um,
Yeah, as you know, you actually played for my stepson's funeral. So he turned 25 the day of his funeral. He was in a car accident, was in a coma for 4 months, and then he passed away, and that was in October. And then in January we had 11 days. We had three deaths. One was a death of a pet, a uncle and just like a brother, but it was 11 days apart. And the I'm still dealing with all of it. So you have the October death, and then the three deaths in 11 days. That is mentally, I just, just these last couple of weeks, I've been on the edge of, I think I'm losing it. So it never goes away, but you just have to find a way to handle it. Some days I can handle it, and some days it's just like, you know what? I have to shut down from everything and everybody in order to get me straight. And some days I'm still not straight, but like you said, life still goes on. But it's rough. It
yeah.
is rough.
And again, right? Like this is, and I'm so glad you all. I just want to say it again. So glad you all are so open to talking about it. I know even when you talk about it, sometimes it's not the easiest thing to talk about. But I think that, and I would think, I think Teresa, I always want to look at you as a counselor and acknowledge your knowledge about this subject. But I think it's so powerful to be able to talk through it and share that story with others. There's a question that we call her Mama Dent. She said there's a theme from a book I've read: change equals loss equals grief. She has a question: what's the difference between mourning and grief? And is there a difference between mourning and grief? And do you all feel that there is? And
Well, for me, mourning is like the period where right after the death, where you are like you kind of shut down, where you take off work, where you may wear black, where there's lots of tears, and um, it lasts for a few weeks. And grief is sort of like something that just kind of stays with you, like your spirit is troubled, or your spirit is your spiritually you're longing for that person who is no longer here in the present. And so it is a little different because people you don't hear people mourning for years and years. Not that they can't, but grief kind of sits with you. It's less intense, but it's still ever present.
yes,
I
yeah,
would I would say that to some, I think mourning is likely much more of the acknowledgement of a thing, and the grief I think is where you work through it. I think mourning is taking the space to sit in it, to feel whatever, wearing the black, going, taking off work, taking space to. I said it yesterday, taking space to take inventory of where am I, where is everything around. All right, I'm back in here. Okay, so finding space to finding space to be, finding space to readjust. I think to sometimes I think the loss of a thing can knock you off your feet. It can knock you off balance. It can put you in another space. And I think mourning is trying to find where that space is. Wherever it knocked you, this is where I am. And I think grief is now okay. How do I work through this?
Yeah. Again, if you all are joining us, I see some people have just hopped on both Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. We're talking about rising above grief, and we're just sharing our stories a little bit. A topic that's not always talked about, but this is Resurrection Chronicles. Listen, take a moment, share this with your network. Like this post if you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, like this, and then share it. Share it with somebody who might be going through grief. They say, like, listen, hey, this might be a good conversation for you. And if you've gone through grief, this might just be a great conversation for you. And if you know somebody going through grief, this might be a great conversation for you to help the person going through grief. And so we just have some of the stories happening. I saw that Jason, Pastor Jason, said that grief. His therapist says that grief comes in waves. And he says mourning is the outward expression of the grief you are experiencing internally. And I think that's pretty deep. I'm curious. Everybody on this panel, and Marcy, you talked about like you've gone through it in so many different ways in the last couple of weeks and months. Does grief affect your faith? And if so, I mean, God, I talked a little bit about my brother. Let me just share this, right? Like I want to be very honest, and I know people are like, oh, as a pastor, and I think Tyreese, you shared, right? Oh, you're a counselor. That's how you can get through it. So people, as a pastor, that's how you have your faith. That's what you get through it because you got your faith. And I preach sometimes and say, look, when my brother died, and I was angry with God. Like I was so angry with God. I was upset with God. I know my mom was more angry with God than what I was, right? Because my mom's like, you allowed me to have this child, and then you took this child from me so early. And so like I don't have any problem in letting people know. No, I was upset, and I me and God had a lot. It was like I don't. I'm here. I am launching a church. Trying to do your will, and you took right you hear people say this and then you don't think you'll ever say it, right? You took, right? Not like not you allowed or not they did anything. You took from me, and we blame God. At least that was my experience. I'm just wondering if anybody else felt any of that in your loss. Was your faith affected? Did you talk to God? Were you upset with God? What was that like for y'all?
I want to ask for your indulgence because I want to share something, but it's quite a long story. But just indulgence, please. That I never was mad with God when He took Ayana, which is really interesting. I saw a Facebook post before she died, a year or so before she died, where it says, "My mother taught me everything except how to live with her," and it was really a post about somebody who lost their mother grieving. And then my fourth goddaughter to me, um, "Mommy, if something, you're gonna have to." Can y'all still hear me?
Yeah, now we
You had
can.
gone in a second, yeah, but we hear you now.
Okay, I'm sorry. My 14-year-old goddaughter had lost her mother at 14. And Ayana said, "Mommy, if something happens to you, they're gonna have to have two funerals because I'm not gonna be able to live my life without you." And I remember having this conversation with her that both of us belong to God. And that one day I'm going to leave here, and the expectation is that she's going to live her life fully, knowing that I'm going to be with her in spirit, and that I would want her to do everything that she knows I would want her to do, live her life and be great and all of those things if something were to happen to me, because I was not promised to be here. Never knowing that conversation was for me. And God woke me up right after Ayana died, maybe the day or the next, during that week, 5 o'clock every morning, and gave me some revelation. It was 4 or 5 different conversations that I had with my children, that I thought I was ministering to them about death and about life, about how to live life. And God brought them back to my remembrance. And it was every morning at 5 o'clock. And it wasn't me. It was God really communicating with me and helping me get through this. So never was I angry. I did an interview with Bruce Johnson, and right after Ayana was killed, and Bruce Johnson asked me, what would I say to the person who killed Ayana? And I said, I forgive you for killing my daughter. Exact words. And while I do not even remember doing the interview, I remember sitting in my family room watching the interview because my house was filled with people. And I'm looking at me on television say that I forgive the person who killed my daughter. And I'm having this conversation with God, like, I forgive him. Like, who said that? Like, those are not my words. I did not say that. And God brought it to my memory. He said, from the time you got the phone call that she was shot, you haven't been angry. And I was like, I haven't been. I haven't been angry. And so I wasn't angry with God. I wasn't angry with the person. I was in full acceptance mode, but not us with that. And God was bringing it. He brought everything full circle, that while I had told Ayana how to live without me, I had to now eat those words, because I did not belong to Ayana and Ayana did not belong to me, that we both belong to God. And then when God is ready, he will call both of us. And it just so happened that while I was having a conversation with her, it was ministering to me. And she's in a better place, right? She's in a place with the person who cares about her that much. And I also remember another morning I was crying, boohoo, rolling on, and I was like, God, why did you take her? I loved her so much. And I heard God say, I loved her more. My face dried up like the desert, because there's no argument there. There's no argument there. And so I had a different experience with God. And the day before Ayana was killed, we were at church. They had just come home for spring break, and I was really proud because I had gotten 2 kids to college, 2 through high school without getting pregnant. I was excited about that thing. Like, this was my success story here. And I remember Sunday sitting in church beaming with pride. And then the next day I'm in a hospital getting a death notification from the doctor. But the same God that was good to me on Sunday was the same God that was good to me, even though my daughter was dead. And I had to remember that when things don't go our way, we can't turn on God. And we have to stay the course, because none of us belong to each other. We are on loan, and we don't know how long that loan is. Thank y'all for indulging me.
No, that's good. That's good.
Wow.
That's good. Yeah. Nikki, you got something for I heard you say.
I'm just really taking in everything that she just said. I mean, that's so very powerful. I I'm somewhat of a different experience, when it comes to death and the people close to me, or I don't want to word it. I can't say that many people so close to me have died, right? But for the ones where it did kind of hit me a little bit, I tend to question myself, because I don't have that deep grief, that deep mourning that you would think I would or should have. It's like, okay, I'm sad. And then at the funeral, I may cry, I'm sad. But then after it's all over and done with, I sometimes kind of feel like out of sight, out of mind. And so then when it comes back to me, it's like sometimes I think, something might be wrong with me, because I'm like, why am I not more upset about this? Or, should I feel more sad about this? I recall with my great aunt, my morning was, after the funeral, really, because, everybody gathers at the house for the dinner, and, everybody does their part. I was determined that I was going to make that lemon pound cake for the family. And I had started, and everybody knew that Nikki was going to make the lemon pound cake. So we're expecting greatness because we all know how Aunt Gliz's lemon pound cake is. So you got to put your foot in this. So I'm dealing with that pressure of, okay, I gotta make sure I live up to the expectation of Aunt Gliz's lemon pound cake. And I started making it. I was reminded of this today because my big cousin actually sent me a picture of me making the cake. This is why I'm telling the story. I'm making the cake, and I messed it up at first. I guess I was just under so much pressure, and whatever it happened, I messed it up. So I had to start all over again. And it was super late at night. Like, it had to be like 2 o'clock in the morning. At this point, my mom was like, no, why don't you stop? We already got plenty of food. We got plenty of dessert. You don't need to make this. And I literally had like a breakdown to the point to where we were arguing. Like, I was fighting with my mom. My sister understood, but I was fighting with my mom because I'm like, no, I have to make this cake. Like, you're not about to stop me from making this cake. And she couldn't understand it. She's like, it's late. You're tired. We're all tired. Why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you stressing out about this cake? And I'm like, no, I have to make this cake. This is my only way to pay homage, you know what I'm saying, to my aunt. I didn't get a chance to talk to her. I haven't seen her. This is the only way I can honor her legacy. And I'm kind of tearing up about it because I'm emotional, because that's how serious it was for me to make that cake. um, and I think about it now and it gets me emotional, but after all of that passed, I haven't really thought about it much. It hasn't come in waves, it hasn't hit me. I haven't, you know, considered it at all until today, of all days, actually, which is ironic. My big cousin sent me the picture of me making the cake, and she's like, "Do you remember this?" And I was like, "Wow, that was Aunt Glenn's funeral, huh? I don't have this
Yeah,
picture." And and now we're having a conversation, and it's just bringing all of that back.
yeah. I want to my mom corrected me. She says I wasn't angry. I'm not angry, but my faith is not exactly where it was. And then she says, "Bless you all." So I did see my mom put that. It's interesting. Tyreese, you said something that I do want to go back to though. Um, I love the line you said. It was a moment of understanding. And Nikki, thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much for sharing
Mhm.
that moment. And that's um, Tyreese, you said that God let you know, or I think you said God let you know that she was your daughter, but it was God's daughter first, right?
She was his, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yo, and, oh, go ahead.
no, no, please, because I was going to ask
No,
you because I
finish your
just think,
question.
yeah, I just think that's such a powerful statement. One that I'm almost sure that I've heard my mom talk about, but I think I had to resonate with that too. Um, in even some of the loss that I've experienced, um, it's just such an amazing thing to recognize that we are not our own, but that we belong first to God. Um, and so, right, like that, there's a strength in that, that I think, it's a powerful thing. I'm wondering, was there ever a battle in you once? I mean, once you acknowledge that, was it just that was it, or was there still this battle? Like what was there a conclusion in you, or like what was that process to acknowledge that like?
So for me, it really was not a process. It really was, I just never got to anger. And I thought I would, because one of the things that a lot of people don't know, the place that my daughter was killed is my route to work, coming and going every day.
Mm,
So a lot of people, so I just knew one day, I was like, one day I'm gonna be driving to work and I am going to lose it. Oh, okay. And I am going to lose it. And I just never did. 5 years later, I never did. And I thank God for that. But as a therapist, right? And even as a friend, people have apologized to me because they're not handling their grief the way I did. And there's no expectation that they should. My experience was my experience. And even clients like you is there's no way you're supposed to experience it, right? There's and you do it, you get through it the best way you can. I don't know why I experienced Ayana's grief like that. Had you asked me on Monday morning, that I would not have pictured in me acting like any of this. But it's what God had for me at that time, with that particular loss, right? And and honestly, when I say God dealt with me every single day up until the funeral at 5 o'clock every morning, I was waking up. God had also reminded me the night that she had passed, I had been up for like maybe 48 hours because she went into the hospital on Monday, but she didn't die till Tuesday. So from Monday morning when I woke up, I didn't go to sleep till Tuesday night. So
Wow.
that first night I slept like a baby, and I was just like, oh, I'm tired because there's no way I should have slept this good. I mean, I slept good. And then the next day I slept good. And then the next day I slept good. And I knew when people talking about the peace of God, like you don't know it until you experience it. Like I was so peaceful. And God, it was so many things that had happened that confirmed that God had his hand in all of this. Even the person who performed autopsy was my husband's fraternity brother. God was showing me in so many ways that he had me and he had her too. Like it's no question in my mind, that God was orchestrating all of this and making sure me and my husband was okay. Because every area in which we could not have been comforted, God was showing up. Even to that that maybe that Thursday I had gotten a letter that our insurance company had switched hands. You know how people buy a company, so all of our insurance, life insurance, had switched hands, and my husband usually keeps all of the paperwork. Well, I had tried to hand it to him on Friday and say, hey, put this up, and he said, oh, just hold on to it, I'll grab it later. So the papers that I needed for insurance were in my purse when my baby died. Like God orchestrates that. My baby was 18. She's had insurance since she was 3 months old. And I happen to have the papers. I mean, when I tell you God had orchestrated this thing, so my experience was different. And there's no expectation that people would live up to how I did it. My experience was my experience. And I think God was using me because after that came several assignments that God has put me on. But I want to say to Nikki that you don't have to feel bad in how you grieve, because actually, in all reality, you're probably dealing with it in a very healthy place, possibly because, um, if we're Christians, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord, and we should be celebrating that. It's hard because humanly we are selfish and we want people to be in our lives as long as we want people to be in our lives. But rationally, we all are going to die at some point for
Mhm.
some reason. And the issue really is that we're just not ready. And so, really, what we're grieving is not that really people have died, but we're not ready to let go of the relationship.
Mhm.
Or we might have some other stuff. And then some people might be dealing with it similarly to you, and it's unhealthy because we often don't want to deal with it. So we stuff it and we don't deal with it right away until there becomes a breaking point, like you're like an anniversary, or you're in the house for 2 years under COVID and can't do nothing but deal with it. But I would
Mhm.
just suggest that if you feel that you're healthy and it's not interrupting your life, then don't worry about it. And if you feel like the grieving is interrupting your life, it's okay to have Jesus and a therapist.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for that. That is very important. I'm a big proponent for mental health and therapy and all of that. So that I love both you and Marcy for being the mental health advocates, and I might want to connect with you outside of this, being a therapist that you are. But I think that is very important, and I don't know. I honestly don't know if I deal with death in a healthy or an unhealthy way, to be honest with you. I don't know for sure because it as you see, like, if I talk about it, then that's when the flood of everything comes back. And I resonate with what you said in terms of we don't want to let go of that relationship with that person or the memories. And for me, it was that also tied with the guilt of not being able to say goodbye, because I did deal with guilt about that. And that was why making that cake was so important, because I was like, this is my only chance to do or say anything for her, because I didn't get a chance to when I had the chance. So I think when I remember that, that's what takes me to the emotional place. But outside of that, I don't think about it. I don't acknowledge it. I don't, I carry on with life as usual. Life is normal. And it's only when I start to talk about it, remember it, and acknowledge it that I'm like, oh, and I think that's when I start grieving. But outside of that, I don't.
And I know Tyreese, my phenomenal. She's my best friend, one of my best friends, and a therapist. And she bought me this shirt that says, "I need Jesus and a therapist," and that is that's true. I don't care. I mean,
It's so
It don't
true.
say you need
because
it. It
I
don't say
literally
you
had
need it. It says it's okay to have it. It didn't say you need it. You do need it, but that's not
well,
what the
I
thing
need it.
said.
I need it. Because I
I
need
don't
it.
want people to think you got a bad best friend that give you a message on the shirt like that.
And if that's what they think, that's what they think. Because guess what? That's what it is. Um, it is what it is. But I want to talk to Tyreese is just phenomenal. Um, and the crazy thing is, was it 3 years after, or 2 years to the date after Ayana passed? My son's best friend got shot and killed. Um, and it was just, we had went out with the McAllisters and the True Hearts had went out. They had dedicated uh, a wing to where Ayana got shot. So we were celebrating, we were comforting, and 6 hours later, I was thrown into a situation where, like, my son's best friend he was one of their children. He was he was like one of my children. Um, and Tyreese was there. And I kept saying, no, because this is, you're grieving. And in my mind, I was like, you're grieving. I can't be selfish. But where you at? You need me to come where you are. You want to come to where I am. And that just is a testament to, even in your grieving, you not only, I wouldn't say set aside, but you stepped up to me in my grieving over the same thing, just different people. So she's like a phenomenal therapist, yes. And she might give her favorite client a t-shirt that says she needs a therapist and Jesus. But that taboo of not, of especially us church folks, of saying, oh, I got Jesus, I don't need a therapist. Shh. Whatever, whatever. And we need to get out of it, because we stay stuck in our stuff because we refuse to get out of our mess. All you gotta do, go see a therapist, sit down, talk. It's easy, because we talk, when them church folks talk about everybody. Sit down with a therapist and talk about yourself.
Uh-oh.
I got something for that, Miss Marcy, to add to that. Like, I'm a to piggyback off what you said, I'm a big supporter of that because for so long there's been this disconnect between the church and mental health. And we have learned, through that teaching that, if you got mental health, then that means you ain't got God, or, I'm saying, you don't have Jesus.
You're not
And
praying hard enough.
that's right. You're not praying hard enough. You don't have enough
You're
faith.
not living
You
right.
know, if you got mental health issues, if you suffer from depression and anxiety, if you can't get over grief, then that just your faith, something's wrong with your faith. And that's just not true. And what I compel people to think is that God has put resources here on this earth to help us. So why wouldn't he provide us people who specialize in helping you with mental health in order to help you to get past whatever it is that you're dealing with? He gave us doctors to help. Like, you're a person in the church. If you're sick, you're going to go to the doctor. A therapist or a mental health specialist is the same thing. They're still doctors who specialize in how to help you deal with your mental health. So the same resources that you use, you have faith in going grocery shopping, the grocery store to provide you food, your job to give you money so that you can live. Okay, doctors and mental health specialists are the same resources that God helps us to provide. I need the church to get out of that mindset. It's okay to use therapy and mental health counselors and still be about God. So,
I want to
You know
level
my
up.
what
I
that
want to
problem
level up.
is? That problem is we don't want to do the work on ourselves. So we
Woo.
have to do this internal work. And
mm,
once we dig on the inside and we pull out our uh soot from the inside of us,
mhm,
and we clean the inside of us out, but it's easier for me to throw shade on everybody else but not work on me.
I want
mhm.
to level up on that too because not just therapy but medication. People don't want to talk
Yes,
Mm,
about
wow,
that. And I tell
yes.
people all
wow.
the time, when my daughter died, even though God was dealing with me, my heart was absolutely broken, right? And I knew God was dealing with me, and I was here for the assignment, but I needed help to get out of bed because that grief was weighing on me like a brick blanket. And so I took an
Mhm,
antidepressant for several months. I got off of it and I thought I was good. And then I had to get back on it because I was not good. And I want to say the other thing that I think that really helped me besides therapy and medication is that I was resilient. That I was pretty well before my daughter was killed, right? Because I practice self care, I practice it intentionally, and I'm radical with it, right? So I think of myself as radically resilient, right? So I'm not just bouncing back to where I was. I want to be better than I was before whatever happened to me. And it's not just with the deaf Ayanist, it's being fired from a job, it's, losing friends, it's losing family members, it's, whatever happens to you, if you take care of yourself, right? And I don't mean just a massage, although I'm not against massages. Just want to make sure we understand that. Or retail therapy, definitely not against shopping, but we got to do some
yeah.
real work with ourselves. No, a lot of times people would say they do retail therapy. I'm all for that. I'm all for massages, but we got to do some real work. And it's not pretty. I tell my clients all the time, sitting here with me for 45 minutes to an hour is the easy part. The homework and making application to your life, what you learn in my session, you gonna experience some changes, and you are it is work. It's work to get you
Mhm,
together. And it's work to get
Yeah,
me together. I just thank God that what happened when I was in a very healthy place, because it could have been my family could have dealt with this very differently if I wasn't in a healthy place. And you see what I'm saying? My family could have dealt with this differently if I
right,
wasn't in a healthy place. So as a
right,
mother, right, as the queen of my
mm,
home,
right.
right, that I know that
mhm,
I led my husband and my daughter and how we would deal with this. And I'm not saying that they were not strong, but we know if a mother wants to change the diet, then everybody in the house is going to be healthy, right? And so how I was God gave me an assignment to deal with my family, and to deal with some other stuff after the death. And I just thank God for his grace in that, and for choosing me. My friend had lost her daughter maybe 3 years before Ayana, who was like a niece to me. You know when you have best friends, y'all kids grow up and they become family.
Yep.
And so this he stayed with me every summer because her mom was a single mom, and the child care thing. But she stayed with me every summer, and she died from diabetes. But she was an only child, and I watched my girlfriend grieve and hurt over losing her only child. And I asked God, why, God? And I said, I could have dealt with this, but not her. Like, this is hard on her. She don't have what I have. And no shame on her, but she just didn't have what I had. And who knew 3 years later I was gonna be dealing with it. But
Mm.
God got that carrying you over in the sand and bringing you, that's some real stuff, baby. That's some real stuff.
It's so interesting
It,
because me was I think for me I had and I know we're kind of coming to our time, but I wanted to say I think with doing the work yourself, that also means making sure you have a good community around you. I think for
Yes.
me that was such a big piece, right? Like I had folks who were encouraging me, I had folks who were consoling me, I had folks who allowed me the room to talk, even if I were talking about the same thing over and over again. They allowed me that room to express myself, and I knew it was important for my well-being to be able to have that sort of community around me. And I think so many people retreat. A lot of times we retreat amongst to ourselves. I don't want to talk. I don't want to wear you down. I don't want to weigh you down. But I listen. I'm an advocate that if you gotta have good friends, and I don't mean friends that when you got some extra weed they're gonna let you smoke it. I don't mean friends that what I'm saying, when you got some extra money they're
Come
gonna come
on now.
around and be like, yeah, we can all eat because you got extra money. I'm talking about some folks who are going to allow you to sit in your darkness and are saying, you know what? I'm going to sit in that darkness with you, and I'm going to walk through it with you. I'm going to take the time necessary, right? So that we can, if it's a weekend, guess what? We're going away, right? And they're going to
mm,
walk with you on both sides. When you're grieving, when you're in mourning, I'm going to sit with you, and we don't have to talk about nothing. Sometimes it's just sitting, and
just sit there.
a quiet room speaks a lot of words, and sometimes it's
Yeah.
just sitting in that quiet room. But I had friends who would do that, and I need people to hear that, right? Like, you got to have friends that you can depend on, that even when you say, you know what, I don't know if I want to talk, they're still going to sit with you, and they're not going to allow you to go through it by yourself. It doesn't mean they don't give you your space. It does not mean they don't give you your time, but they're not going to allow you to sit and walk yourself into a place of death. And I mean spiritual death, physical death,
Mm,
mental death, emotional death, because there are all types of death. And I think you've got to have a good
yep.
community that will walk with you. So I just think that's super important to have.
You need to have better friends than Job did, because Job's friends said, surely you must have done something wrong.
The
Surely.
scripture.
Surely. You know what I mean? And you gotta
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
also be that friend. You gotta be that friend.
Yes.
Because sometimes we don't know how to, we want friends, but we don't show
Mm-hmm.
ourselves friendly, right? Like, people are busy and they don't have time. And I'm a very busy person, but my friends often say, I don't want to bother you, because I'm like, I'm busy, right? Because I don't want to have a lot of idle time. I got things, I'm on assignment. I'm serious about my
Mm-hmm.
assignment. But
Mm-hmm.
I, you might be part of my assignment. So don't let me tell you I'm too busy. Don't you decide that I'm too busy. Call me if you need me, and my phone is on 24 hours a day, and night. So that's no excuse. It's no reason for any of my friends to be saying that they don't have nobody, because I'm always there. Even if I don't call you, you call me, I'm gonna pick up the phone. Even if I have to say I'm with a client, I'll call you back, right? They know I'm gonna do that. And so we have to be able to show ourselves friendly. And that is one thing that helped my husband and myself and my daughter, is that we had an amazing circle of friends. My church family showed up, my
Mm,
sorority sisters and my husband's fraternity brothers, because neither one of us are from the DMV, right? So our families do not live here. And when my family came from New Jersey, they were absolutely impressed of how much love that we had, because I'm the only child and the only grandchild and the only niece, because needless to say, I'm spoiled. And so my family was very concerned about me. We're a tight family. But they saw that we were much loved in the DMV, and it was comforting, because we are not from here, and it just was amazing. And so, and people need you after those 7 days, right after the funeral, they absolutely need you. And so, you have to, and I think because my husband and I had been friends to so many people, that it was not hard for people to turn that to us, return that to us, and so I was very grateful.
Absolutely.
If I
Absolutely.
could add right here, if I could add right here, and I promise you, I know we touching time already,
And
but
everybody got something to say.
you spoke to what was already pulled up. I was like, I got a note that I feel like I'm supposed to be looking for, and immediately it took me to Job chapter 1, 20 and 22 of an old message, but something that as a musician for the last 20 plus years now. I played for so many funerals, so many festive and celebratory occasions, but then so many sad and somber ones as well. And one of the things I've always encouraged families was, one, to continue to worship, because that is sometimes something in a godly space. It is hard to stay stuck in some things when you invite God into it. Because
Yes.
again, God's thinking big picture, right? Big God, stars in the sky, but he's also small God lives in your heart. So I think,
Mhm.
again, to our point earlier, however you grieve is however you grieve, and God takes you through that process. But one of the things that in Job 1 and 20, I always take them to this because it is something last year that kept me. And it says, when Job heard this, he tore his clothes, right? This is after, for those that don't know the story, in summary, Job's entire family was killed. We just gonna stop there. His
All of them,
livestock, his
except for his wife.
livelihood, everything gone. I mean, everything gone. And when Job heard this, when Job heard everything that happened, he tore his clothes and shaved his head because of his great sorrow. So he mourned. He knelt on the ground, then worshiped God, and he said, "We bring nothing at birth. We take nothing with us at death. The Lord alone gives and takes. Praise the name of the Lord." In spite of everything,
Mm.
Job did not sin or accuse God of wrongdoing. And I think it's something that as a mature Christian, I think what you were talking about, Ms. Tyreese, was being a mature Christian, being a Christian that literally trusts in God to be your father and God to be your provision. And we saying, God, I know you got me covered on Sunday, but then when hell breaks loose on Monday, Pastor Frank Ray out of
Exactly.
Memphis said, a faith that fizzled in the flight had a flaw from the first.
Mm.
Mhm.
We cannot afford to give up in this fight. He never said that it was going to be easy. He never said that it was even going to be simple, but he did say that I got you covered. And I
Yes, he
think in some
did.
of the worst seasons of our life, I think we find that God reveals some amazing things. Come on, Noah, with this flood, you about to destroy the entire earth. But God also said, I'm going to show you some new stuff. I'm going to reveal some
Mhm.
things in you. Yeah, you're born and you're going to go through this grieving process, but I'm going to make something beautiful, a masterpiece out of all your broken pieces. So I just want to
Yep.
encourage somebody that's listening to this. I know you feel like a broken piece. And through my own grief this week, I am talking to myself. God is going to make a masterpiece out of your broken piece. So just hold on. Just hold on.
Can I just acknowledge something real quick? Two things real quick, I promise. One, I wanted to acknowledge what you guys mentioned about the whole community piece. Again, co-signing on that, really important, because I'm actually one of those people where I will feel like I am a burden to someone before I ask for help, knowing that I need help. But I am a recluse. I will isolate. I will be in my own bubble. I will disappear. And if I don't have the right community around me, because I'm one of those people who needs that. And if you don't come get me or come around me, then I'ma just be in my bubble. Like, you won't hear from me, you won't see me, none of that. So I am one of those people. So I co-sign that community is very important, especially with me now being in the DMV. I don't have a community up here. I'm actually building one because I'm brand new. So that's important. But then too, I wanted to acknowledge, like when Miss Marcy was giving you, Miss Tyreese, your flowers, I saw this comment that I have to acknowledge to, give you kudos and praise to everything that you're doing, because Annie Marie Young commented and said, the Lord is using you to minister to me and to others. And I felt that that was very important to highlight, because, everything that you're doing and everything that you've been speaking tonight is doing an amazing thing, and God is doing some very amazing things, in you and through you, Ms. Marcy, and everything that you guys are doing. I've been sitting here feeling the presence of the Holy Spirit so strong. I've been sitting here trying to hold it together. I don't know if y'all can tell, but I've been trying to hold it together over here because it is strong. Like, I'm about to break out praying in the spirit at any moment now, because that's how strong this conversation has been and how powerful and impactful it has been. So anybody that has been listening and tuned in tonight, I know that they have God has reached the ears that needed to hear through you all, and very thankful for that. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Keep going, and many blessings and prayer to everything that you are doing right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
And so, with that said, we are going to allow Tyreese in just a second to kind of share what you were going to share earlier. I do want to make a point. My best friend, Pastor Jason, who's on, Jason Mathis, he says, Jesus therapy and my tribe saved my life after 2 types of loss. And I
Yeah.
know that to be true. Jason is a advocate for Jesus, but I know that he consistently goes to therapy. And I know that he is surrounded by good folks. His aunt died maybe a year ago, just a few weeks ago. He's over in Delaware, and I was like, bro, I'm coming up. I came over to Delaware. He had to work that day. I was like, but you're not about to be going through your first year alone, Marcy. Jason. I said, you're not going
Of
through your first
course.
year alone. But I think all three of those we've touched on. I think they're so powerful. And so, Tyreese, you want to share, and I do want you all who are watching and you all who tune in to really just please, if you can, support the works that honor the legacy of Ayanna and so many others. I think that have fallen is victims of gun violence. The work that Marcy and Tyreese are doing is so important. So I do want to take this moment. And, yeah, just could you just highlight what you're doing? I'm going to share the website in our chat while you're talking, but just kind of share with them
Okay.
what you're doing and the stuff you have coming up.
Perfect. So, for many of you, hopefully you do know by now that June is Gun Violence Awareness Month. So, June is absolutely a very busy month for us. The first thing that we're going to have is a prayer breakfast, and we have limited tickets. So, if you want a ticket, you got to hit me up right away because we don't have many left. But the prayer breakfast is Saturday, June 4th from 9 to 12. We have our guest speaker is Pastor Wesley John from Alfred Street Baptist Church. It is an amazing event. It's 5 families who've lost their children who've come together to put this event on. It's not a fundraiser. It is just us coming together to pray for our community because we know that that's so important and we want people there. So you can find that information on the website. The second event is June 11th. We're going to have some workshops, and it's more or less advocacy. We want young people to come who've lost people by gun violence. They're going to make a memory board for the person that they lost, as well as participate in 2 workshops, one on grief and loss and the other one on conflict resolution, because our young people need to learn how to resolve a conflict without a gun. Okay. Then
Mm.
the third event, which is our major event, is going to be at Athletic Republic. Marcy is actually the chairperson of this event. So, Marcy, I'll let you talk about the excitement with that.
So our June 12th event, it is called Hoops Against Gun Violence. And we have all of Athletic Republic, 8 courts. We're going to have 7 courts basketball playing all day long. We're going to have vendors. We're looking for vendors. We're going to have employers there doing
So, if you're looking
interviews.
for a
So we're
job,
off. Say that again.
I said, so if you're looking for a job, come through.
Yeah, if you're looking for a job, if you're looking to bend, be there. If you're looking for a job, be there. If you're looking to look at a great basketball game, be there. We're having women games, men games. The Greeks are playing. So go to the website hoopsagainstgunviolence.com and
No,
you
that's
can
not the
see
website. That's the email.
that because we have so much going on. But
You
if
said
you want to vent,
hoopsagainstgunviolence.com?
No, that's the email. That's no. It's just go to ayanamcallister.com, the website, and you'll find the hoops. But if you have questions, you can email us at hoopsagainstgunviolence@gmail.com.
Okay.
okay, because we do so much, and it is going to be a great. So it's going to be from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So it's going to be so much fun. We're going to have some
Face painters,
prizes.
workshops.
Yes.
We have Bacon Bear
So,
coming from the radio station.
and we have
That's sweet.
so we'll also have an open court for people who just want to come in the community, who just want to come and play on the court. And we have a cheerleader. We're going to have a cheerleading workshop also. And right now the tickets are $20 to get in.
And I just want to say
Awesome.
the reason for this, we're having an all day event because one, we demonstrate in positive recreation. We do know that when children are have something to do, they're less likely to menace. We're making sure that employers can have tables because we know that when families can provide for themselves and when young people again have something positive to do, they are less likely to menace and pick up a gun. We're going to be doing some workshops. The MC for our event is a gun violence survivor. We throughout the day we share information on how to prevent gun violence. We also have community agencies like Mobile Crisis, Domestic Violence Unit come and have tables so that young people can get the support and help they need. Oftentimes, I find that young people don't even know these things exist. So when they are in trouble, they don't know who to call. That may be a friend. And so we want to do cheerleading, come on out. Anybody who wants to have a table and vent with us, come on out. This is a community event and we want to love up on the community. Anybody who's interested in volunteering, please fill out a form. And anybody who's interested in sponsoring or helping to sponsor this event, we could use a lot of help. To put on an event this size really takes a lot of money. And we are a nonprofit, and all the proceeds that we do get also go to scholarships. So we're still raising money to make sure that children who have a gap in their finances can still get to college. And we do not just give scholarships to straight A students. Our scholarship, you just need a 2.5, right? And we will work with you because we want to make sure that kids have a second chance, because oftentimes kids, if you don't have a 3.0, you don't get the money. And so we want to make sure that we are demonstrating that we want to give children a second chance, an opportunity for a second chance.
So
That's amazing.
what I want to yeah, what I want to do, thank you so much. I want to, so the what the well will do is, if you, and we'll be in touch, right, ongoing. Marcy such a great friend. Tyreese is becoming such a great friend. Both friends to the well. I know there was a lot given in just a few moments, and so I want to make sure that I get all the information from you all, and then we can also, we will promise to make sure that that stuff is highlighted on our social media, so that people will see it, and that we will also make sure they're connected to it, and that way we'll also have more of that stuff, so people, if you missed it, you can always go back and rewatch, but we'll also be highlighting that on our social media sites so that you guys will see it sort of as it happens,
Thank you.
and to get to it. I also want
Pastor
to
Ray,
implore.
can I ask one more? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I just want to say I was also want
I
to implore
want
people to go ahead. I want to implore people to check out the book, Is My Lollipop in Heaven, that Tyreese wrote. I'm going to put the link, the Amazon link there in the chat. And then
Can
again,
you not use the Amazon link and use my website link?
Yes. Okay.
please,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that way
Yep. Yep.
people can get their book signed.
Got you.
Amazon will not allow you to get it signed.
Okay. Okay.
So
Cool.
it's TyreseMcAllister.org.
Okay.
And can I just talk about the book real quick?
Yes, please.
So in 2017, when my daughter was killed, I wanted to be able to talk to the children in my family about her homicide, because that's something, we really just don't talk about. We bury people and keep it going. And I wanted to make sure that I was able to, and so I looked for a book and could not find a book. And so what I wound up doing is writing a book once I got myself together. It is an awesome children's book. And I'm not just saying it because I wrote it, but it's a children's book that addresses not only community violence, but police homicide, suicide, and not returning home from a deployment. So it is a book that it's not, and even though it is a children's book and it sounds really heavy, it really is a very easy to read book. Many adults have read the book and had given me great feedback. I got some feedback from teachers who have said this is an amazing book and it's something that they absolutely could use. And so if you all could just please support the book. In addition to that, I myself and a co-author, we wrote a book because we still found that even though the children's book was available, people did not know how to talk to the children after they read the book or work through the issues with the book. And so we have a caregiver guide for people who need that level of support, because teachers need it, pastors need it, people who are not therapists, parents need it, to explain the amount of people who are, dying. My daughters have been through five funerals before they finish high school of homicide victims. So our children are absolutely traumatized in these streets, and we don't live in a hood, right? And so imagine when you live in a hood, how many deaths people can experience, and then nobody's really talking about it. The kids are walking around and wearing the t-shirts. Every time we go to visit my daughter's grave, the kids have been out there because they leave their liquor bottles, which I'm not a fan of, but her friends are hurting, and they're wearing the t-shirts, and they show up every year for her birthday and her death day. We go to her grave, and it's at least 50 of her friends and our family that's there. And so the kids are not able to really process this. They're not necessarily in therapy. So the book is amazing, and we just want to make sure that people get their hands on the book to be able to support. So even if you don't need the book for yourself, purchase one and give it to another child or another person that's grieving. It is a real amazing book, and it's a hardback book, so it's a tough book.
Tyrese, how much is the book?
It's only $20, and then an additional $5 for shipping and handling.
Shipping and handling.
And so what we also are going to do is I'm going to pledge right now to purchase at least 5 of those books. And
Thank
then
you.
Mama Annie, I saw Mama Annie, you were on. We will send it to you because I know that you commented. Pastor Jason, you were on. We will send it to you as well. And then we will talk about 3 more folks that we're going to send it to. But I feel like it's only right that we send it to the folks who definitely were supported and that you touched tonight. So we definitely going to purchase those from you, and we will send those out ourselves. And again, I might just purchase one for every one of our squad members as well. So we will dedicate ourselves to making sure that we pick up that book and share it.
So let's connect so that I can hand you the books, and then that way you can avoid the shipping and handling.
Okay,
Right, since we're right here together. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Listen, we thank you all so much for tonight. It has been such a moving conversation. We're so glad that you came on. We consider you well family now, which means you all are Wellians. So continue to support us, please, and we will definitely continue to support you. Regardless of your support for us, we are always going to support you. Debbie, I know you didn't get much in tonight, but we thank you so much for being a part of us. Debbie has a short film that she finished about a year ago, and it has been making its moves and its rounds, and we are so proud that she has been a part of the Well family. So, please follow her and follow all the work that she's doing. Debbie, just share with us very briefly. I know we have gone way over time, but how can people follow you, and how can people continue to watch what you're doing and watch it grow?
Yes, so I completed a short film called It's Still Not About Me, about 47 minutes long, and there's its own Facebook page for the film. Just look up It's Still Not About Me. There are no other films with that title. Should be easy to find. It was recently selected into a film festival in Hagerstown. I'm still actively submitting it to film festivals, so hopefully be playing in the DMV and some other places in the East Coast. So we'll invite everyone and tell people to come to watch it, I guess, live and festival. After it goes through that circuit, then I'll be able to show it more publicly. But yeah, like I said, look up the Hello Facebook page. That's where you want to see it, and some behind the scenes video and pictures of the production, and there it is.
How many minutes did you say it was?
It's 47 minutes.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, we're doing some great. We have so many people doing some great things. And again, thank you all for being with us tonight. We're going to try to join you as much as we can. Marcy, Tyreese, let us know, the One Love Life Center as well as the Well. If we could be of support to any of that, we'd love to show up. And we'd also love to bring these well conversations to people live. So if there's any way that we can, get with you and maybe have these conversations in person at the events you're doing, we'd love to maybe just have a segment where we could talk and do some of that stuff and do some of that work in the community. So we're always open to that. Again, if you want to follow us on all of our social media, folks, at Encounter the Well, both on Facebook and on Instagram. It's both Encounter the Well. There it is right there, Facebook and Instagram. If you'd like to join us, because this does take finances, but we also not only want to use the finances to bring you this, we want to be in the community doing things with the finances that people are willing to contribute. And so if you'd like to do that, you can text to give any dollar amount like it is in the picture to the number 84321. If that's $100 like it is in the picture, we'll accept it. If it's $5, we'll accept it. Anything helps. Anything helps the cause. You can also go to our website, www.encounterthewell.org. You'll see the trend there, Encounter the Well. That's pretty much how you find us online on everything. And we want to, again, thank the Amplified Network, who host us, who produce us, super producer Jackie and Terrence for always being there for us. We love you guys, and we are so proud and so happy that we're part of it. Listen, if you're grieving, we want you to know God. I want to share this real quick as we close. There was a young lady who lost her husband years ago to gun violence. She suffered. I remember her in the middle of the night, grieving, wailing, moaning. A couple years later, she lost her 14-year-old son to an asthma attack. He went to a coma the first time. He came back out. We prayed diligently for him. The second time when he went to the coma, we kind of knew he probably would not come back out, and he did not. But what I want to testify to is that mother who lost her son, when she lost her husband, she was, in a fit. And then when she lost her son, there was something different about her. What was different? What was different about her was that in between the time that she lost her baby father or her husband to the time that she lost her 14-year-old son, she had started going to church. And more than just going to church, she had developed a relationship with God. She had all of a sudden found the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit got her through in a way that it had not been present the first time. It got. And if you don't know that peace, then the Well wants to introduce you to what that peace looks like. You can make it through anything. God has given us that ability. He has given us that strength. And we want you to know the same strength that people like Tyreese has had, people like Marcy have had, people like Harrison are displaying right now. We want you to know that same peace. We want you to know that same joy. And we want you to know that you can get through it. So please, if you need that peace, if you're looking for that peace, do not hesitate to reach out to the Well or the Well Squad in the same ways that we highlighted before. You can even reach out to the Amplified Network, because I know Jackie and Terrence, they will help guide you through it. And you've heard Tyreese and Marcy say so much about their fund and their organization. I'm sure you can reach out to them as well. But do me a favor. Reach out. Do not hide in darkness. Do not succumb to the darkness. Do not swallow up in the negative places. Convince yourself that you will make it, and I believe that there's a word and there's a God who will pull you through. Listen, y'all, we love y'all. Next week, we're talking about rising above poverty, our last one for our April series. And we want to leave you with this message. We love you, and there is absolutely nothing that you can do about it. We will see you all next week. Thank y'all so much. We love you.
Thank
Peace
you.
out.
Thank you.
Good one.